Under the government's three mega projects plan, South Korea will develop a new semiconductor production cluster in the southwest, including 4 new memory chip fabrication plants, through a funding of more than $500 billion in private investment. The death toll from Venezuela's devastating earthquakes has climbed to 1,450, with rescue crews racing to find tens of thousands of still missing. The U.S. and Iran have reportedly agreed to halt mutual attacks, with talks set for Doha on Tuesday to seek a solution to the Strait of Hormuz dispute. The leaders of the nation's chip giants, Samsung and SK, have unveiled massive investment plans centered on chips and AI across the regions. President Lee Jae-myung hailed the business moguls as national heroes. Our Yoon Jung-min starts us off.
Driving a leap forward towards a global industrial powerhouse amid fierce global competition. That was a key pledge by President Lee Jae-myung in a national briefing on Monday for the unveiling of what the government labeled as 3 mega projects.
오직 속도전만이 살 길입니다. 어떤 나라보다 빠른 속도로 인공지능의 핵심 요소를 확보해야 합니다. 반도체, 피지컬 AI, 인공지능 데이터 센터가 대도약을 위한 삼각축입니다.
Another focus was taking a global chip rally, which is driven by AI, as an opportunity to create a growth engine nationwide outside the capital, Seoul. Samsung Group made an investment pledge of a total of over 2.6 quadrillion won, worth over $1.7 trillion US. The chip giant plans region-specific investments, such as advanced packaging in the central region, humanoid robots and batteries in the southeast, as well as chips in Gwangju and the southwest.
We consider Gwangju as a candidate site as we expect a lot of incentives there, including electricity and water supplies, workforce, and various infrastructure.
SK Group announced an investment worth 1 quadrillion won in a project to build AI data centers and 1.1 quadrillion won in AI memory production, respectively.
We plan to build AI data centers with a combined power capacity of 15 gigawatts in each region. We also plan to build a new chip cluster by investing 400 trillion won in the southwest.
Che added that SK will move up the date to build a chip production line in the city of Yongin. The president hailed the two men as national heroes and promised full support for corporate investments.
또 어려운 결단을 해주신 점에 대해서 우리 국민들을 대표해서 제가 인사 한번 드리도록 하겠습니다.
In line with the blueprints, the authorities also announced their support measures for a chip cluster roadmap centered on the country's southwest and central region, swift transition to AI robots in manufacturing, and large-scale investments for AI data centers. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
New government data shows regions with semiconductor industries outpaced the rest of the country in economic growth. Kim Do-yeon explains.
Korea's gross regional domestic product grew by 3.8% in the first quarter on year, yet this headline figure masks a deep economic divide dictated by a single factor, semiconductor production. According to the Ministry of Data and Statistics on Monday, the fastest growing province was Chungcheongbuk-do province with a 13.8% year-on-year surge. This surge was propelled by a 25.8% leap in manufacturing directly tied to the global chip boom. Gyeonggi-do province expanded by 6.2%, supported by a 14.2% rise in its industrial sector. In sharp contrast, Jeollanam-do province's output shrank by 0.8%, marking its 5th consecutive quarterly contraction. The figures reflect a high concentration of production facilities for Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, spanning manufacturing hubs, including Pyeongtaek, Icheon, and Cheongju, alongside their densely clustered supplier networks in the area. This widening economic gap provides the critical policy justification for the government's highly anticipated mega-cluster investment in the Honam region announced on Monday, among other investments around the nation. This data confirms that regional economies face structural limitations without advanced technology infrastructure. In addition, apart from the semiconductor industry, the general manufacturing industry remained weak along with the construction industry. Meanwhile, Seoul and Sejong showed resilience. Seoul's service sector, driven by finance, insurance, and retail, grew by 5.1%, and Sejong expanded by 3.2%, bolstered by public administration and services activity. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
5 days after powerful back-to-back earthquakes struck Venezuela's northern coast, the death toll continues to climb. But amid the rubble, there are moments of hope still breaking through. Our Kim So-young tells us more.
In one of the hardest hit areas just north of Caracas, rescuers pulled a newborn from the wreckage of a collapsed building. 32 hours after the earthquakes struck, video shared on social media shows workers carrying the infant to safety. The 18-day-old baby was uninjured. The mother was rescued alive an hour later. Medical workers believe she shielded the child with her own body. But rescues like this are becoming harder to come by, as the 72-hour window for successful recovery has passed. So far, at least 1,450 people have been confirmed dead, and the United Nations estimates some 50,000 remain missing. The two earthquakes struck just 39 seconds apart, bringing down hundreds of buildings. More than 2,700 rescue workers from 24 countries are on the ground, using drones to search what remains. Civilians are also digging through rubble with their bare hands. Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez announced new measures to coordinate recovery efforts.
We have decided to immediately create the Presidential Commission for the evaluation of habitability of those homes, as well as to determine the habitability of infrastructure related to roads, bridges, and overpasses. We have already restored about 75% of electricity services. Teams continue working toward full restoration, as well as water services, which are at 68%, and roadways, which are about 90% restored. Very important for rescue operations.
But concerns remain over the pace of the response. In some affected areas, debris removal has yet to begin, according to residents. One resident told the BBC that road closures have complicated access for some rescue teams. Still, aid is arriving from 24 nations, and rescuers are not giving up. Experts say survival is possible beyond the golden window, and after 5 days of heartbreak, the mother and her 18-day-old baby prove that hope remains. Kim So-young, Arirang News.
Europe, the world's fastest warming continent, is facing an exceptionally early heat wave that's turning deadly as it spreads east. Shin So-won has the details.
Crowds gather beneath cooling mist sprayed from Berlin police water cannons. Even after being soaked, there's little relief from the relentless heat. Tourists retreat to the shades and fan themselves, but with air conditioning installed in only about 20% of European homes, escaping the brutal heat is no easy task. According to the World Health Organization, more than 1,300 excess deaths have been linked to the heat since June 21st. Experts say the crisis was fueled by a so-called heat dome, with high pressure trapping hot air from North Africa over Europe and pushing temperatures to extreme levels. As of Sunday, Germany recorded an all-time high of 41.7 degrees Celsius, while Poland and Czech Republic also shattered national temperature records, with temperatures exceeding 40 degrees.
I've worked in temperatures of 17, 18 degrees. It's 40 degrees outside, but in here, it's 50 right now, my dear brother. Would you like to come inside? Would you like to visit my sauna?
Describing heat stress as a silent killer, the WHO chief warns that Europe's homes, schools, and workplaces were never built to cope with prolonged extreme temperatures. As France's heat-related death toll surpassed 1,000, the crisis also reignited debate over wider use of air conditioning in a country where cooler summers and heat-retaining buildings have long kept adoption low.
My apartment is top floor, south-facing, so it's really, really, really hot in there. And after the last heat wave, I was able to get my hands on an air conditioner. So it's been a lot better, manageable now.
With climate change making extreme heat the new normal, the WHO is urging governments to strengthen public health systems and better protect vulnerable populations. Shin So-won, Arirang News.
Renewed tensions over the Strait of Hormuz briefly reignited fighting between the U.S. and Iran. But Washington says both sides have now agreed to halt attacks and resume talks. Park Kwon-woo has this report.
The U.S. and Iran are set to meet in Doha, Qatar on Tuesday after agreeing to halt the exchange of attacks that continued over the weekend, according to Axios, citing a senior U.S. official. The talks were originally planned for Switzerland to discuss Iran's nuclear program, but amid continued tensions around the Strait of Hormuz, the venue was moved to the Qatari capital. Nick Stewart, who heads the U.S. technical team, is expected to join the talks. On Monday, Iran said a joint committee on the Strait of Hormuz held its first meeting in Oman. According to an Iranian deputy foreign minister, the two sides discussed the sovereign rights of Gulf states and the future management of the strategic waterway under this month's MOU between Tehran and Washington. The meeting comes after the two countries continued trading fire over the weekend. Washington struck targets in Iran, prompting retaliatory strikes on U.S. bases in Kuwait and Bahrain. The U.S. said there was no damage and no casualties. The latest hostilities stem from differing interpretations of a clause in a memorandum of understanding signed 2 weeks ago concerning responsibility for the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says the agreement gives it sole authority over the waterway, while the U.S. argues that interpretation violates international law and insists freedom of navigation must be guaranteed.
Said Iran has a choice to make. It's going to be a responsible nation, or it can continue down this path to absolute ruin. And don't think for a second that President Trump isn't going to leave every option on the table to achieve not just our aim, the entire world's aim, that Iran never has a nuke.
With Iran struggling under mounting economic pressure and the Trump administration facing November's midterm elections, attention is now on whether both sides can reach a deal before tensions escalate further. Park Kwon-woo, Arirang News.
The local bourse witnessed a mixed trading on Monday, with the KOSPI closing up over 8% from Friday, while the KOSPI ended down 0.2%. The KOSPI was bolstered by anticipation over new market revitalization policies ahead of its 30th anniversary in July. Now, meanwhile, the benchmark KOSPI saw a drop of some 3% shortly after opening in response to last Friday's decline of U.S. tech stocks before regaining some ground at closing bell. From institutional reform to the future of development, candidates seeking to become the next United Nations Secretary General are beginning to outline their priorities. Our Oh Soo-young sat down with one of them at this year's Jeju Forum.
Rebuilding trust in the United Nations in a fragmented world requires reform and also a new approach to development. That's the message from former Senegalese President Macky Sall, who is seeking to become the next UN Secretary General. In an interview with Arirang TV on the sidelines of the Jeju Forum, Sall stressed the urgency of reform for the world's largest platform for multilateral cooperation.
We're living in a fragmented world where trust has greatly diminished and where consensus has become difficult to achieve. And this has greatly weakened the United Nations. The Security Council, for example, which is responsible for peace and security in the world, is having difficulty finding consensus on the majority of crises.
Sall says reform must happen on two levels, inside the United Nations itself and among member states.
As Secretary General, one of the first missions will be to implement this reform on two levels. First, at the level of the Secretariat and of the United Nations itself. How can we optimize its functioning? How can we also rationalize its resources and its missions? The second level is with the member states.
On development, Sall says official development assistance has reached its limit. Africa's population now stands at 1.5 billion and is expected to reach 2.5 billion by 2050.
The challenges this creates for development, access to drinking water, access to electricity, financing for development, employment for young people and their education, must be placed at the center of global concerns.
He says the UN should bring together governments, international lenders and the private sector to create jobs and reduce migration pressures. Sall says Korea offers a concrete example of what development can achieve.
Korea showed that underdevelopment is not inevitable. It went from receiving aid to becoming a donor country, a member of the OECD and the G20. The Korean example can inspire the world, particularly African countries. As president of Senegal, I worked extensively with Korea on economic cooperation, in the maritime sector, in the military and security fields, in agriculture, rice production, and in healthcare.
The next UN Secretary-General is expected to take office in January 2027 and faces the challenge of restoring confidence in multilateral cooperation at a time of deepening mistrust and global divisions. 오수영, Arirang News, Jeju.
Hallyu-related spending by foreign travelers to South Korea hit an all-time high of 1.4 trillion won, or about $900 million last month. According to the Korea Tourism Organization, May sum is up over 73% on year. The findings suggest South Korea continued to attract Hallyu tourists even after BTS wrapped up its Gwanghwamun comeback concert in March. Concert attendance appeared to be the most popular activity among the foreign visitors. From cutting-edge technology to centuries-old tradition, artificial intelligence is giving Korean Gugak music a modern twist. Our Hong Seo-jung has the story.
A gentle female voice fills the theater, offering comfort to those worn down by the demands of everyday life. With lyrics like "At the end of another long weary day," the song captures the exhaustion of people living in today's fast-paced world. Yet, there is no singer on the stage. Instead, the voice is generated by an AI named Jium. This time, rather than singing, the AI lays down a beat for the National Orchestra of Korea, accompanying a performance of Gugak set to Jajinmori, a fast and lively rhythmic pattern found in traditional Korean music. The AI not only created the beat and generated the vocals, but also composed lyrics by analyzing emotional patterns in survey responses collected from audience members before the performance, giving a voice to their shared emotions. 보컬과 작곡까지 맡은 그대라는 기적의 작사한 과정을 설명해 주실래요?
I wove together words of comfort that people offered themselves into lyrics through the poetic language of Gugak.
The chief content officer of Posalabs, the company behind the AI, says some of the AI-generated works were arranged by members of the orchestra, while others were completely reimagined. He says AI can serve as a valuable creative partner, helping composers explore genres and musical styles they may be less familiar with.
Every composer has their preferred genres. When working in a style they're less familiar with, AI can be a valuable creative partner. For instance, an EDM composer may not be accustomed to orchestral writing. If they want to explore that style, AI can generate melodies or orchestral ideas they might not have come up with on their own.
At the same time, performing alongside AI also came with its own challenges.
When people perform, the tempo is naturally a bit flexible. It speeds up or slows down slightly depending on the emotion, and there's a certain natural sense of breathing in the music. AI isn't quite able to capture that yet. So when performing together, having to keep such a precise, fixed beat did feel a bit demanding.
The concert concluded with enthusiastic applause and a standing ovation from the audience. Like this performance that brings together tradition and innovation, the future of music may be shaped not by humans and AIs working alone or in competition, but by the harmony they create through coexistence. Hong Seo-jung, Arirang News.
K-pop boy band BTS is taking its citywide festival project This City to London next month. According to the group's record label Big Hit Music on Monday, the event will run alongside the upcoming World Tour concerts at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on July 6th and 7th. The iconic London Eye will be illuminated in red, which is the signature color of the Arirang tour, and a large floating sculpture will also cruise down the River Thames. First debuted in Las Vegas in 2022, the project transforms major global concert stops into cultural festivals for fans and locals. Time now to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. So for that, we have our sports editor, Paul Neate, joining us in the studio. Hello, Paul.
Hello.
So, Paul, South Korea's World Cup journey comes to an abrupt end, right?
Yes, and the head coach, Myung-bo, has resigned as a result. Hong made the announcement on Sunday at the team's base camp in Mexico. He offered his apologies and said the responsibility falls entirely on him. He and the team will begin to return to Korea tomorrow. 8 players will reportedly return on Tuesday, but due to limited airline seat availability out of Mexico, the whole squad will arrive back in batches. Son Heung-min and others will return directly to the countries where they currently reside. Now, there'll be no welcome events at the airport, and security is being tightened too, with a backlash expected from fans. Now, South Korea could have gone through as one of the best third-place teams, but they needed 3 results from 9 matches elsewhere to go their way. In the end, only one did. Spain beating Uruguay, DR Congo beating Uzbekistan on Saturday sealed Korea's fate.
Such a shocking exit. That's the group stage finished. I understand there have been some incredible individual records at the World Cup. Let's talk about that.
Right, yes, some involving the 2 players who many argue are the greatest of all time. That's, of course, Leo Messi and Ronaldo.
Right.
They both became the first players to feature in 6 different men's World Cups. Lionel Messi scored his 17th and 18th Korea World Cup goals in Argentina's 2-0 win over Austria to overtake Germany's Miroslav Klose as the outright top goalscorer in World Cup history. And at 39, Messi became the oldest player to score a World Cup hat-trick during Argentina's 3-0 win over Algeria. Cristiano Ronaldo became the first player to score in 6 different World Cups after netting a double against Uzbekistan. He also has the record now as the oldest player to score more than 1 goal in a single game at a World Cup at 41 years and 138 days. Argentina play Cape Verde in the round of 32. Portugal face Croatia.
Alrighty, moving on to golf now. It looks like South Korea has a new LPGA major champion.
Yes, indeed, yes. Yoo Han captured the KPMG Women's PGA Championship. It is the first major title of her career. Yoo finished at 13 under par, 2 shots ahead of fellow South Korean Yoon In-ah, and earned nearly $2 million in prize money. The victory completed a remarkable comeback. Yoo trailed by 10 shots after the opening round before charging through to become the first player in LPGA history to overcome a double-digit first-round deficit to win a major. The 2023 LPGA Rookie of the Year now has 4 tour victories in 4 seasons and becomes the first South Korean to win an LPGA major since Amy Yang captured the same title 2 years ago.
And now finally to baseball. It looks like there was a Korean derby in MLB on Sunday. Let's talk about that.
Right, yes, it was Lee Jung-hoo versus Kim Ha-sung, and Lee Jung-hoo of the San Francisco Giants came out on top, collecting his first hit in 3 games against Kim Ha-sung and the Atlanta Braves. Starting in right field for the Giants, he went 1 for 4 with an RBI. After being held in check by Braves ace Chris Sale early, he delivered a run-scoring infield single in the 6th inning and advanced to second on a throwing error, helping the Giants extend their lead. The Giants held on for a 3-2 victory. Kim Ha-sung, meanwhile, batting 9th and playing shortstop for the Braves, went hitless in 2 at-bats but drew a walk. He has now gone 12 straight games without a hit, although he has reached base on walks in each of his last 2.
Thank you for that, Paul. I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Yep.
For the first time this summer, a heat advisory has been issued for all of Seoul. The advisories are also in effect for parts of the surrounding capital area, as well as Gongju in Chungcheongnam-do Province, Cheongju in Chungcheongbuk-do Province, and Sejong. So if you're heading outdoors, make sure to stay hydrated by drinking plenty of water. Summer heat will continue tomorrow, and as temperatures climb through the day, the atmosphere will become increasingly unstable. That means scattered showers are expected in many inland areas from tomorrow afternoon into the evening. Rainfall amounts are expected to range from 5 to 40 millimeters depending on where you are. As for temperatures, Seoul will start the day at 22 degrees Celsius, Daejeon at 21 degrees, Busan at 19 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 33 degrees, Daegu 31, Jeju 27 degrees. The rainy weather will start on Jeju Island on Wednesday and gradually expand northward to areas south of Chungcheong-do province by the weekend. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.